afternoon and welcome to the salubrious sounds of surrounding of the rehab group, and we have a panel of experts here to answer your questions today. It is the Heads Up Webcast, Life After Secondary School, and believe me, there certainly is life after secondary school, and it does get better. But often times here at Heads Up, we're asked time and again what happens if things didn't go the way you wanted to during the Leaving Cert, the results period directly after them. So we're here today to answer your questions. First of all, we'd like to introduce you to our panel. My name is Muireann O'Connell. I'll be hosting it. We'll let you know how you can get your questions through to us shortly. But over here, I'd like to introduce Orla McLoughlin, who is the Irish Association of University and College Counsellors representative with us today. Orla, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Also, someone, if you are heading to college, an organisation you will know about a lot. It's Denise McCarthy, who's the Welfare Officer with the University of Students in Ireland, their group there. We're also joined by Tony Bates, who's Youth Mental Health Expert. Tony, thanks for joining us today. And over here in the lovely pink, we've got Suzanne McCarthy, who's an education psychologist with the National Learning Network. And finally, we've got Orla McLoughlin, who's a guidance counsellor at the Institute of Guidance Counsellors in Ireland. So they're all here to answer your questions, and you can do so by going on to headsup.ie, very simply. And there's two ways to do that. If you're logged into your Facebook or your Twitter, you can upload questions directly via the chat if you're there. And also there's a social stream. So if you register, what you got to do is register with Ustream, and we'll get your questions here. And we'd love to have any questions you possibly have for any of these people. They'd love to be able to answer them. But first, we are going to kick off. We've had some questions submitted already, so we're going to ask people what they make of this and how we can perhaps help you. So just to remind you, headsup.ie is simply where you have to go. Now, we're going to talk to Honor first. Obviously, being a guidance counsellor, it's a time that you're incredibly busy. So in the aftermath of the Leaving Cert results, what have you been asked most recently by people?
Most recently would have been, say within a college, if they could transfer their course, and the preference order of their choices. They have maybe got their fifth choice. Can they go up on another round to their fourth or their second choice? Other questions about, like, say, if they've had maths, what they can do about that. And all of those vacant places, that there are now places on stream that they can have another choice if there are courses there that they really have to do. So yeah, there's a lot to do. There's also, coming up this weekend, if they would have viewing their scripts. You say somebody's disappointed with a subject, they could ask a teacher to come in with them, have a look at that subject and apply for a recheck. So there's lots to do.
Now, just in relation to the scripts, obviously you can view your scripts this Friday and Saturday. Would you already have to apply to do that right now?
Yes. Well, you would have had your information in the school last Tuesday.
So hopefully you've done that. That would be really good. Tony, this is an incredibly difficult time. Most of us would have done our Leaving Certs and it never leaves you. So what are some of the issues that are sticking with students at the moment?
Well, I think finishing the Leaving Cert and leaving the school, secondary school, is itself a big issue, because you've got all kinds of questions you may not have answers for. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Who am I? What am I like? What am I not like? So it's a kind of a time of waking up, and sometimes that can be kind of abrupt. Because the people who got you this far, your family, they're still there, but in a way you've got to step out on your own and start to begin to claim your own life, take charge of your own life. And that's scary, but very exciting as well. So I think it's both daunting and kind of exciting.
And one of the ways that you would say for students, because it is a huge transition, whether you're staying at home, leaving home, you haven't gotten the course that you wanted, so already you think at 18 your life mightn't turn out the way you thought it was going to be. What are the important issues to keep yourself mentally feeling healthy then at this time? What are the things that you would advise people to do?
I would say give yourself a break, big time. The first thing, you've had 5 years, you've been working probably pretty hard. A lot of things have been going on. You're probably kind of exhausted. You may not have gotten everything you wanted in the Leaving Cert, so you might be feeling quite disappointed. And, finding that's a lot to take on board. So just give yourself a break. It's going to take a little time to cross over this river from secondary to third level, and just, there's some things you've got to sort out, and that's okay. But it takes everybody a little time. Don't think you're going to figure the whole thing out immediately.
From a practical point of view, we're also joined by Suzanne McCarthy, who's the education psychologist with the National Learning Network. For an awful lot of people, Suzanne, at this time, if they have a learning difficulty, they've been in a cocoon when they're in school with teachers who know their history, with friends who understand them. Is that leap from secondary school to college something that can be quite difficult?
It can be, because I suppose the transition from from primary to secondary and then secondary to third level and beyond is a big it's a big transition for people. It's a big step to take, but just to know that there is help, at third level, there's a lot of supports, there's a lot of help out there, but it's up to each student to let the college know, to inform staff in the college about what difficulty that they may have. It could be something like dyslexia, so it would be important to let the disability office or the student support services know that you have that difficulty, and then they can arrange for the proper supports to be put in place, like around exams and technology that might be useful and that kind of thing.
And with that, technology is obviously something that's very important now, and colleges are up to date with all this kind of stuff. So does that make things easier for people?
Definitely, yeah. There's so much technology available out there, from software to hardware devices. Things that can help with reading, writing, putting assignments together, that kind of thing. So there's lots of technology out there, and a lot of colleges and universities have an assistive technology advisor or a support person in the college that can kind of make some recommendations for the students.
You're watching the Headsup.ie Life After Secondary School webcast. If you are watching this, then indeed you're already on the right website, so you can upload your questions. I won't have done leaving Cert for nothing at this stage. You can upload your questions. You can go to Facebook or Twitter, or simply Ustream on the website there. You just register, and it's very quickly, and you'll be able to put your questions up there. USI in Ireland, a very important organisation. And Denise McCarthy, when we talk about getting into college, we just mentioned, when you finally do get there, the supports that are there from the USI. If you're, an 18-year-old and you're going into the big bad world of college, is it easy just to walk into your welfare office or your student union and talk to people?
Yeah, following on from what Tony was saying, college is full of fun and exciting experiences. And this is just the first one that you're going to meet, is the first initial walk into the college. The big bad scary word that is college, but it's so important to connect with your student union straight away, and it really is that easy. Is knocking on a door or sending an email or sending a text message. Like a lot of the unions will have union Facebook pages, so you can find out who's the education officer, who's the welfare officer. I know these terms sound really scary, but in 2 months' time they will practically be your best friends. Or your family away from home, so it's really important that you are connecting with them. Make appointments if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed in college. Make an appointment to meet them, sit down and ask, who do I talk to if I want to join a club or society, or I'm having a problem with my house, or whatever it may be. They're trained in so many ways, and I suppose as the national officers, we provide training for them, we organise training with the officers, and we always kind of liaise with them, so they can give so much help, and then they can refer you on to other organisations to help even more.
Apparently, I was told when I was in college, if you had a problem with your house, you weren't allowed to complain because you had a really uncomfortable couch. They don't do that, unfortunately. Now, also we've got here is a representative from the Irish Association of University and College Counsellors, Orla McLoughlin. And Orla, you're one of those people that perhaps the USI will send someone on to.
Yeah.
So in that regard, what would you do in relation to students?
Students come to us for so many different reasons, from very small reasons to very big reasons. And I think it's really important that students know that you don't have to wait till everything falls apart before you knock on a counsellor's door. Pretty much all the colleges have a counsellor available, and it's basically a confidential space where you can talk about whatever it is you're struggling with. Generally, the earlier you come, the better. In our experience, students who come when they're beginning to struggle can do really, really well rather than wait until things completely collapse around them, although it's a natural tendency to wait because you think your problem's not big enough. But it could be anything. It could be problems you've brought from home that are really getting on your mind so much that you can't concentrate. It could be the stress of actually moving to college. Like moving to college, even if you still are living at home, or if you move out, it's a huge lifestyle transition. Everything's different. The way things work is different. The way you're supposed to learn is different. You might not have had to make new friends for years. So you're thrown into kind of making new friends again from scratch. And if you're somebody who tends to be shy, which a lot of students are, that's going to be a struggle. There can be relationship issues. There can be issues with alcohol or anything like that, depression, stress, anxiety. Any of those things you run into, it doesn't have to be a diagnosis, just struggling. You don't even have to know what the problem is, but a counsellor will just help you figure it out. And sometimes it's nice to talk to somebody who's not a friend, who's not a family member, who's not another student, because it's just kind of, you can keep it completely separate from the rest of your life. It's just that, it's almost like a cocoon space, and it's just yours, totally private, and that can kind of help you move through whatever it is you're struggling with.
I know we're moving a little bit away from just the education bit, but for some people, say if they're just starting to go to college and they're discovering who they are,
Absolutely.
if people are discovering their sexuality and discovering that things are different and it wasn't how they thought they were going to be, would that be something that you'd be available to talk about as well?
Yeah, and I think the students' union would be another place to go with that kind of thing. But if it's something you're not ready to be out in the public to talk about, if you're just beginning to figure things out yourself, having somebody to talk to can really help you put a bit of shape on your thoughts and on your feelings, and that's what I hope you'll be able to be there for.
Okay, so let's get down to some of the brass tacks issues. We're going to go back right now to Orla McLoughlin, who's a guidance counsellor and one of the representatives from the Institute of Guidance Counsellors in Ireland. Courses, can they be deferred right now?
Well, unfortunately, I think I'm hoping people have already done it, because they were given lots of heads up about it. For deferring, they had to apply they didn't apply to the college, they didn't apply to the CEO, they applied to the college, admissions officer in the college, within 2 days prior to the final acceptance of their offer. So the final acceptance of the offer is today at 5:15, so they would have done that. So hopefully have done that. If they haven't, maybe they will give the admissions officer a ring and make sure, for that. But there was lots of information about that. It's page 5 of the CEO handbook. It's all about the deferment. So if they look at that, but I'm sure maybe ringing an admissions officer and checking in now, but they did need to do that 2 days. They have that in the admissions office of the college. They've given their offer, 2 days prior to today. We've done that.
Right. We are getting some questions come in, and we've got more questions here that have been submitted over the past few days to headsup.ie, and we're going to be getting through them as much as possible. There's one here from Mary T. Cahill, and asks, if a person does not want to go to college, are there other ways to get training on the job internship? So on what would say?
Well, what I would say in relation to that, of course there are. You go to if you're doing, say, some internship, say in the science field, go to the local, whatever organisation that's close to you, and ring them and say, look, can I have an internship shadowing? Again, for people that want to go into med, it's very difficult, but sometimes, say a physiotherapist, not a occupational therapist, will allow somebody to shadow. So there are internships, and usually internships happen when they're in college, when they're in it. But yes, I would say there are plenty of ways of training. Send a CV in and say, I want to get into this area of work. Can I please get an internship with you? And be bold and brave.
That's quite interesting, Tony, just to go to you on that. If someone doesn't feel ready to go to college, but would like to try something out, which is a very grown-up way of looking at something, I would have to say. Can it be a bit daunting walking into a place and kind of saying, I'd like an internship, I'd like a work experience with you?
Well, I think internships are great, and particularly for people who are not quite clear where they're going, but they can actually give themselves time, because work, when you think about it, is a kind of a structured way of being with people, and you learn all kinds of skills. You show up every day, you've got to be accountable to certain things. You learn to get on with people. You might bring your own fresh thinking to old problems. And all of that nothing is lost, so all of that's going to become part. I started college I went into medicine, because that's what I was told to do. And I discovered 2 years later that I was miserably unhappy in that career. I didn't like doing that. I didn't mind helping people, but I didn't like having to do the things you had to do. Anyway, I went on and did what I loved, and I did psychology and things. But I often think back, that was my internship. I didn't produce any great results, but I learned a great deal. And there's so many other ways I could have learned. And some people do, take time out. But I think you need to ask yourself, am I just running away from something that I'm just a bit scared of? And if that's the case, you need to talk to Denise or Orla. Or is it that I just need some time out? And then if you do, you need to find words within yourself that you can talk to people, your parents and other people, about why that's important for you. And trust that, if that's honestly what you think is.
Is it something that students struggle with? Say, you said your internship was doing medicine and you moved into psychology, so it's, they're obviously very related.
Yeah.
But for some people, if they've gone down a certain road, given it time to kind of turn their back on that, even if they're not happy, is that a tough thing for someone to do, to kind of say, okay, I'm not happy doing this, I want to try something else?
I think that's perfectly okay to do. I mean, I do think people make mistakes all the time. We all get things wrong. And as one of our young people said recently, unless you make a mistake, you can't learn from them. And the key is not to not make mistakes, but the key is, do we learn from them? And I think if we can just give ourselves, if we're honest, and it's very hard for me to be honest with myself and to know and to see the look of tremendous disappointment on my parents' faces as I told them I was not going to be the doctor in the family. My brother followed on soon behind me and has taken that role, so they're okay. But it was, and to be studying English and philosophy was clearly not their idea of good career growth. But you sometimes have to face that down. You've got to and say, I'm doing it because I really believe. And I just needed the 2 years. When I started then on the road I was born to do, I was thrilled. But I needed those couple of years, and I often wonder about people making decisions at 17, I don't know, honour.
See, they get an option in fourth year, if they do a fourth year, to do work experience.
Yeah.
And there is the implication also in internship of that, the safety cover, the insurance cover in a working situation. That can be a problem with internship. But as a fourth year work experience, they shadow the lawyer or the medic or the scientist or the apprentice in looking after in construction, and that's an amazing thing to do.
Which is great as well, because you can decide what you do and what you don't like.
Yeah.
I did fourth year and actually applied to do a transition year, and I wanted to be a hairdresser or a beautician, and I'm qualified now in social care, so I knew that here I did my experience. I did 2 weeks actually, one in a beautician and one in a hairdresser. And I knew, this is not for me at all. And then in 6th year, I did NCVP, which was the vocational program, because I had science and a language. And I got an extra week of work experience, and I went to a local primary school. And I knew I didn't want to teach, but I wanted to work with young people. And that's where I kind of made my decision. So sometimes work experience can help you and decide what you do and what you don't want. Like that, you might really want to be a nurse. You do work experience in a hospital for a week and see blood or injections and needles or whatever and go home. I can't cope with this, So that's what I thought was great about the work experience in the placements.
Headsup website right now, which of course you can do if you're logged into Twitter or Facebook, or you can upload them directly via the chat there, the social stream. And there is one here that I am going to put towards Denise, and it's from Ruth McCullough, and she says that she's worried about the financial cost of college, as I found it difficult to find part-time work. Is this a situation that you're seeing more and more
it's
in the US side.
definitely a common occurrence, and the thing about it is the financial problems lead to so much more than as well as stress levels of I can't afford this, that leads into so much other problems down the line. But it's important that if you are struggling financially, that you talk to someone about it. Whether it's your counsellor or it's your student union. The beauty of it is that there is a thing called the Student Assistance Fund, and it's available in third level colleges where you can apply for assistance. So I won't go into details of it because it's different in all different colleges. But connect with your student support staff or your student union and say, what is the Student Assistance Fund? Can I apply for it? And what can it help me with? It can help you with rent, with bills, with food, whatever it may be, but it is there. Also, you can contact maybe your local St. Vincent de Paul if they have a fund that you can apply for. There's loads of different funds and bursaries in your local areas. Maybe contacting local county councillors or whatever it is to ask what it is and what is available to you. I know some families are under the threshold for the grant, so they're not entitled to the grant, but they might still be struggling. So that extra push, that extra help is always helpful. Connecting with your student union is great as well, because sometimes they will have part-time work. They might need some student helpers just for Freshers Week or whatever it may be, and if they can provide you a few days' work, maybe putting money in your student card or giving them some lunch vouchers, it's great. And also within USI, what we're doing this year is we're trying to produce a student finance guide to help students about budgeting and saving, because it is tough to get a part-time job, but there are means and ways about getting other funds or getting help. Colleges getting it is more and more expensive. It's not free, or books and everything, but there is help out there. Just make sure you ask.
And is this one thing that's emerging more, because we know that the registration fees are increasing this year, indeed they're increasing next year for the academic year as well. So are you getting students who are worried about not having that money, and whether they're thinking they should perhaps be dropping out because they don't have the money at the moment? Are these issues that are brought up?
The recent My Home IAUCC survey actually showed that almost 40% of students, their biggest worry or their biggest fear is not being able to afford the whole year of college, so that they might start in September and come Christmas, I have to drop out, I can't afford it. But don't let that happen. I know that September can be such a kind of a whirlwind. You're moving in and you have to pay for this and pay for that, and you have to buy your bed sheets and everything for your house to set yourself up. Then you have to buy all your new books. But budgeting, contacting your local MABs. MABs is the money and budgeting services. If you're contacting them, they can give you kind of budget sheets. They can help you out. It is a big worry, but as long as you're asking for help, you will get that help. And it might sometimes become overwhelming, but your student union are there to help you, and specifically in budgeting. Some colleges even have budgetary advisors. I know in UCC there's a budgetary advisor that can help you through those tough times when it comes to money.
Feel free to send your questions in here while you've got people at your disposal. Just to let you know, again, we've got a representative from the Irish Association of University and College Counsellors, that's Orla McLoughlin. We're speaking to Denise McCarthy, who's a welfare officer with USI. We've got a youth mental health expert, Tony Bates. Also sitting here, we've got Suzanne McCarthy, who's an educational psychologist with the National Learning Network. And finally, we've got Orla McLoughlin, who's a guidance counsellor at the Institute of Guidance Counsellors in Ireland. If you're watching, you can put your questions online if you're on Twitter or Facebook, or indeed upload them directly to the website.